A reading from the Gospel of Matthew. When the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a scholar of the law, tested him by asking, "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" He said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The whole law and the prophets depend on these two commandments." God is love. We have all heard this saying to the point that it almost feels like a cliche. But Jesus tells us in today's gospel that the love of God is the foundation of the law and the prophets. The reason for God's love being the framework for everything is because it's based on selflessness. In theory, God could have chosen to not create the universe, life, and humanity, and could simply be all alone. However, God was so full of love that being selfish was an impossibility. Being selfless was part of God's DNA. So instead of keeping that love hidden, God shared it by creating the universe and everything in it, culminating in the creation of humanity. Why was humanity the climax of God's creation? That's because we were created in God's image. So the love that was so strong in God that it absolutely needed to be shared and passed on to us. Our very hearts, souls, and minds were built into the framework of humanity. So just as God wanted to share that love with us, we in turn would share it with others. And not just with people, but with the universe and all life itself. But at some point, we forgot our identity of selflessness. Although we were made in God's image, we weren't perfect. We made mistakes. We even sinned. And the more we forgot the roots of God's generosity that permeated our entire being, we slowly became more self-centered. Instead of focusing on loving others, we became mostly concerned with ourselves. No longer was life about serving others. Life was plain and simple, only about us. We became selfish. This selfishness began to multiply and get passed down from generation to generation. We lost track of our identity, and we needed someone to remind us of who we really are. And that's where Jesus enters the course of history. He tells us that the most important commandment is to love God with our heart, soul, and mind. This in turn translated to loving our neighbors as ourselves. Yet when Jesus reminds us about the most important commandment, it was such a simple concept. It was common sense. And why was it common sense? It's because from the very beginning, we were created directly from God's love. As a result, loving God with our heart, soul, and mind was just another way of saying God's love is who we are. And of course, Jesus didn't simply just tell us this commandment, he showed it to us through his example. He was so in touch with the love of God that he affectionately called the Lord Abba, which best translates as Daddy. He felt God's love and generosity and spread it to others. And in a time when selfishness and negativity were on the rise, humanity finally had a trend of positivity and selflessness, which had been forgotten since being created. His example helped remind us of who we really are and who we have always been and who we always will be. So when Jesus tells us that the greatest commandment is to love God with all our heart, mind, and soul, it isn't so much that we feel commanded to do, but it's also a reminder of who we are at our very core. If God chooses love rather than selfishness and spreads it to us, then we must in turn choose to spread that love to others.
The love I have for you, my Lord, is only a shadow